Hey, champions, how are you doing? This is CG Views with Chris Gloss, and I am super excited you are taking some time out your evening to come hang out with me. Tonight is a very special night. I'm calling tonight a jam session. This is actually the first interview from my course that has went live, How to Step Out of Your Comfort Zone, right? How to smash the status quo. How to get out of a mental prison or barriers you put around yourself, how to get out of that box, how to get out of a place that you know there's much more for your life, and how do you get there and begin to experience that in your reality. So tonight is a jam session, and I have the most amazing guest that I could possibly have as my first interview on this topic. We have many interviews that we're going to do with people with different backgrounds, but the gentleman that I have tonight is somebody I have tremendous respect for. His wisdom, his encouragement, his insight, just the way this guy thinks. You will be free from whatever it is that has you in a container, anything that's holding you where you are. If you hang out with us tonight, one thing that I'll know is you will break out of anywhere you are that you're tired of being there. When I say tips, tools, and techniques, get ready for the flood to come your way. I'm going to give him the opportunity to introduce himself. I am super excited, ladies and gentlemen, and don't want to waste another second of your time. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to some and introduce to others a great friend, a mentor, an advisor, a business savant, in my opinion, media expert. Very few of those exist, but he's a media expert as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Jason Hodge. Hey, sir, how are you?
Hey, Chris, how you doing, bro?
Hey, I am doing fantastic. When I say that I am so excited to have you on here tonight, I'm really so excited. Even just our pre-conversation before we went live, you had to put the brakes like, hey, let's do this jam session.
Right. You had to shut it down early. Exactly. Getting all the content before the show started.
Absolutely. I mean, my antennae went up. You started going down a path. I was like, oh, this has to be recorded. This must be documented. This is that breaking chains kind of conversation. So I am super excited about that. So Jason, let's kick it off. Share with the people a little bit about yourself, what you're doing, what you're working on.
Okay, well, I'm a media planner, and what I do with organizations is I help them plan their stuff out. You know, if they are looking to get in front of a marketplace, I like to take them into the depths of that conversation and simplify it, because really when it comes down to it, there's 7 P's that you've got to operate within. And most folks start at the end without recognizing the things that they have to do at the beginning to even make the end possible. So if you go with packaging and you don't start with your premise, what your big why is, you're kind of like cart before the horse. So I help them get that back in order. Let's put your horse first and then follow it with the cart. Right now, I also run a program for youth, for elementary kids, and it's a media mentorship and culinary program. So they're learning how to cook, and they are building their first network, television network, in the process, along with their cookbook series. So real excited about that. We are inside of the Title I schools, and so we're teaching kids how to be not only self-sufficient, but it's an entrepreneurial incubator. Very excited.
Wow, that's some exciting stuff you have going on. And I know the work you're doing with the kids, and even saw some of the things that you were doing online. Talk a little bit about that cookbook that you're creating with them, and how's that going?
Well, it's going very well because the cookbook is more of okay, I'll give you a great example. Yesterday, the kids, because we made some gourmet cookies, right? They were hibiscus cookies. Phenomenal. I mean, really good, right? And so the kids, they were like, okay, well, you know, how do you spell gourmet? I said, you know what? However you spell it, we're okay with it. Now, the reason why I did that is because far too often we get so stuck in the box of having to be perfect before we present. And I wanted to start them from now, knowing that there is absolutely nothing wrong with making mistakes so long as you're willing to learn from it. So I said, spell it however it is that it comes to you. And that way we can isolate where you are and then what you need in order to understand how to spell it properly. And if we were to do that in our life as adults, we would get so much further, so much faster. But we tend to put the brakes on because we are afraid of presenting in a wrong way. We're afraid of rejection, really, is what it boils down to. And so I want to get rid of that stigma from the time that we're kids, so that by the time that they are our age, I don't want to say killing the game. We want to keep things alive, but we want them to be able to own their successes.
That's a great segue into the conversation we're going to have tonight about stepping out of your comfort zone, because it's that fear of making a mistake that causes us to retreat. And the overall theme of tonight is quit playing small.
Yes.
And so just the fear of making a mistake, it causes you to kind of shrink and go inside of what I like to call, either it's like you could think of your comfort zone as being in a box, and I love it, and I want to hear about your thoughts on the box and the comfort zone itself. But we put ourselves like in this mental prison, and we put our own barriers around us. I remember a guy had a book years ago, Jason, and it said, "The prison doors are open. Why are you still in there?"
Right.
So it's like that comfort zone, that prison. Talk a little bit about that.
Okay, well, I even have another question. How did you get in there in the first place? Okay, because we're not born in that prison. We are trained into that prison. And you know that when you see kids from the beginning, before they're told that they can't, they can do anything. In their mind, they can accomplish anything. They can be everything. And I saw this comical, it was like a picture, like the meme kind of pictures. One of my friends put it up. She's a chef, right? A fellow chef, and does some amazing things in cuisine and on radio herself. But she posted this thing in one of her communities. Gigi, if you're watching this, hey, she posted one of these things in her communities, and it was this kid who put all of these chairs to get up on top of this out of reach shelf, right? And these chairs are balancing on each other to get some knives that, are dangerous to begin with. And then the next frame of that picture was a crayon on the floor, and the kid is sitting at the table saying, "I can't reach it." And I was like, wow, that is like human nature right there. We will do the things that are difficult until we are told that we can't do it. And until that's drilled into us. And that happens a lot of times in the schools. In the schools, we are taught that you have to stay within the lines. You have to toe the line. And what ends up happening is all of those creative things, they get trimmed off. It's like being pruned, overly pruned to the point of death. And then we learn that death, and we learn to be the walking dead.
Wow. It's sort of like, I remember this term years ago, intelligently ignorant. It's like, and it comes from being like the bumblebee, right? Because the bumblebee, it's been proving that aerodynamically it's not supposed to be able to fly, but it doesn't know it. So it just flies, right? It's immune to the criticism of others, even the criticism of itself, the self-doubt and the walls of containment. And it just goes about doing its things because it's not even considering its limitations.
It's focused on the end goal, bro. It's focused on the end goal. That end goal will draw you to it, and that's that big why. If you know where you're going, and then you refuse to listen to folks who tell you that you can't get there, and you just keep on making the steps, eventually you get there. I teach a series, and it's called Little by Little. And matter of fact, next week I'll be training on that at the Bridge Conference. And in the Little by Little, it is how you start from a concept, something, just an idea, and you take it all the way to cash flow. How do you go from a thought in your head and you convert that into a viable program? So in this process, even the training itself grows, Because the folks who came through the first iteration of that training, when they come back through this iteration, they'll be like, wait a minute, this is totally different than the first one. Because little by little, the presentation itself grows, the workshop itself grows. And if we were to give ourselves that same grace and say, you know what, I've got this idea, I don't really know how all of the pieces come together, but what I do know is that I can see the big picture, I can see the end result, so that's what I'm going for. And what ends up happening is that when you go for that end result, you start to pick up momentum. And something about that type of move becomes an amazing magnet to attract all the help that you need in order to get to that end product, to that end goal objective, right? I call it the ego, end goal objective. What's your ego look like? And so as you are moving towards that, folks start saying, hey, you know what? I can help with that, because people like to be on that winning team. Isn't that something? People love to be on a team that's winning. And when you're winning at the steps, going towards your goal, going towards your destination, what ends up happening is they're like, that's the team I want to be on, because they're going to actually make it to the finish line. And in some way, shape, or form, it accrues to their benefit as well. They're like, you know what? I can actually do my part and become a part of that winning team. So, yeah, what do you need from me? And that's where you bridge the gap between what you don't financially have, what you don't have in resources, and what people are willing to just throw at you because they believe in your belief. So it just drives you forward, drives them forward, and then all together it creates a momentum that one person could not possibly even think of being able to do themselves. It's an amazing thing when you see that happen.
Yeah, it's the power of team. It's the energy and the synergy of being around people with like minds. Because even if you're a champion or a consecutive world-class champion, there are still thoughts and things that you're going to battle. But when you're with other people of like minds, it's like it reverses the magnifying glass, where those things, instead of looking big, they become small to you because of the conversations you're having, because of the things that you're doing. It empowers you to have that mindset that's set to win. And I like to think about like a thermostat, right? That we are thermostats, not thermometers. So if we set our mind to that and we have that community that we're engaged with, we begin to produce uncommon results.
Yes, yes. And I'm going to tell you this. This is what I loved about your program. You know, when I first went through it, there were some very simple concepts that you present, and the exercises in there. And it's kind of funny because if you don't catch yourself, you can easily discount the depth that it will take you to. Okay. And I think your program is kind of like, what is that type of exercise when you are working against your own muscle? Is it isotonics or isometrics? Something like that. It is whatever you put into it, it is magnified because you are pushing against yourself. It causes you to ask yourself the relevant questions. Have I done what I'm supposed to do in relation to this aspect of what I need to do to get to where I want to go? Okay. And then you have one or two answers. You can answer either yes or no, and anything in between, you're lying to yourself and others. Okay. So if it's a no answer, then the next question is, okay, am I willing to do that next step, or is it really as important to me as I say that it is? And it's okay if you find out that the answer is no, because then you probably realize I'm living somebody else's dream and I need to go and find what my dream is. But if the answer is yes, then you go through that checklist. Well, have I done everything in order to ensure that I protect the legacy of where it is that I ultimately want to be? You know, so inside of what we do in life, we've got to be willing to ask ourselves those things.
So, Jason, talk a little bit more about what you just said, living someone else's dream. And I think that's something else that puts people into that comfort zone, because you're not, it's not even your experience. Like you bought into somebody else's dream. And so now you put yourself in here, and the frustration you feel, when you're at work and you don't want to be there anymore, and they're paying you just enough not to quit, you're working hard enough not to get fired, and that constant frustration that's tearing away at you is because it's not even your dream, it's not even your path, something you invested into. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, you see, here's the thing is that, and I'll say it like this, I don't like to use generalities. Generalizations usually tend to be wrong. And I just made a generalization when I said that. But generally speaking, though, and I think that this is probably one of the more accurate generalizations, because we can look at the statistics, we can look at the results of this statement and say, you know what, and more than likely this is true, is that you've got 4% of society that is kind of like, quote unquote, winning. They are living the life that they want to live. They are at the financial strata that they want to be at. They are living la vida loca. Okay, whatever. They are living in a way that is pleasing to them and does not stress them out. And the 96% of the rest of everybody else is not. Okay. Now you've got a 1 to 2% of population is actually living in a way where it's like, okay, yeah, they are owning the game. And the ones who aren't, they aren't because they have been looking, and forgive me for everybody who is inside of this definition. This is not a personal shot. It's just a reality. Is that when you are inside of that 96% and you have aspects of your life that you really hate, it is because you are now trying to follow a path that was placed in front of you by somebody who did not even understand your blueprint. So you were given what success looks like, and then you were made to pursue that success, even though everything in you is fighting against that. So you go down this trek and you get the benchmarks and hit the milestones and all of that. And you keep on finding this emptiness because you've been referring to somebody else's document and saying, okay, so what is the definition of success? What is that? Okay, well, according to this document, the definition of success is a house with, 3.5 children, a dog, a picket fence, and this, that, and the other, when your true success may be somewhere in the Amazon rainforest, building huts and all of that, and showing people how to really take advantage of the resources that they have in order to not only survive their lives, but to thrive in their lives. But because you have bought into the picket fence scenario, you live inside of a facade of success, and you are looking successful to everybody else, and you're miserable on the inside. That's where most people live right now. And you have to be courageous to say, I'm willing to step outside of that box. That's where the box comes in. I'm willing to step outside of that box to really explore life and to see what is in store for me. What is my real purpose? Because based on that, I've got to now make the moves to fulfill that purpose, not somebody else's purpose. But most of us are not willing to do that because the fear of rejection keeps us from making that step. That fear of rejection of, if I'm wrong, I'm going to get laughed at, I'm going to get ridiculed, I'm going to get the I told you so's, I'm going to get the, well, why did you quit your law practice? Why did you quit your doctor practice? Why did you quit whatever that successful thing is that you spent all of those years in school racking up all that student debt that you cannot get rid of until you pay it off? And so you spend a good 30, 40 years paying off your student loans because you're successful, as opposed to the person who was willing to go to the huts, in the Amazon rainforest and teach villages how to thrive. And then they have no debt and they have a very peaceful life because they are living inside of their zone of genius. We don't tend to do that.
Right. So, Jason, describe I want to hear your perspective on how can a person know if they are in their comfort zone or they're in this box? What are some signs? What are some indicators that you are in this place, even though it's not even where you want to be anymore, and you're afraid to do anything to break out of there. So what are some signs or indicators that you can think of that a person could look at their life right now and say, yeah, that's me. I'm in a box and I want to get out of this thing?
That's a real good question, Chris. And I say it like that because the answer is going to be probably a little unexpected. I'll say it like this. It's not going to be by the traditional markers. Okay. Like, okay, you're living there, you're in that quote unquote comfort zone or whatnot, and things are going great. It's actually going to feel like you are constantly in a workout, because when you are living on your purpose, there's going to be opposition that comes against you. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for some reason, we've been taught when we have certain oppositions that something's off. It's not that something's off. It's that the force that God has put in you to move forward is being matched by the force to keep you from moving forward. And that's how, and this, again, shake as much salt on this as you want. Chris asked me this question, so I'm going to tell you from my perspective. But this is how because there's always going to be continual growth. It's continuous growth, and you're going to be questioning, okay, wow, okay, should this be happening? Okay, I've got this going, and even though these things are coming against me, I'm compelled to move that much further. I'm compelled to make that next step. I've got to do this. There is something internal that will not let you rest until you make the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step. And before you know it, all of those weights that were there before, you find that they don't go away. It's just that you lift them much better. And then new weights come up, and then you learn to lift those. And then you learn to develop teams and collaborations and networks to help you lift a heavier load. And before you know it, you are lifting a load that you couldn't humanly lift before, because every new challenge brings about new solutions that you have to now have an expansion in your capacity to be able to hold that solution and continue to move forward. So it's always about continuing to move forward. You're compelled to do it no matter what. I hope I answered your question.
You did, but I want to take it to another level. I want to, even this might feel controversial for some. It might offend some. But when I think about this comfort zone and why this is such a personal thing to me, is with the state of depression and mental health and how much it's on the rise. A lot of that is connected to just being unsatisfied. Right. You're unsatisfied with your job, unsatisfied with relationships. So you're in this comfort zone, you're unsatisfied, and you don't want to break out of it because you fear the unknown, right? So you say, well, if I step out of this comfort zone, if I do decide to walk away from this great career everybody believe I have, this great relationship everybody else believes I have, but I'm dying inside, it's the picture of being a public success and a private failure. And you're not dealing with it, and you're just allowing life to go on. So then depression sets in, other mental health issues sets in. And I think it's on the rise because people aren't willing to do something different, to go ahead, and you said it earlier, to thrive and not just survive. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that people aren't willing to risk rejection, because I don't even think that people have a fear of the unknown. It's what does the unknown mean? And the unknown means, it may mean for some, hey, if I botch this, I'm going to be ousted. I'm going to be ridiculed. I'm not going to be accepted anymore. People are going to start to question me. They're going to start to question, what's going on upstairs. And therefore, I'm not willing to take that chance because I have had this pedestal built up under me, and I can't risk that. So they trade true success for the pedestal. They trade, what they could stretch for for what is already placed in front of them that they don't want to disrupt the apple cart. Hey, you know what? I kind of know this. Have you ever heard that statement? I know this devil. So people aren't willing to swap devils. I know this devil. So I know I'm miserable here, but I don't know what's going to happen on that side. So I'll stick with this misery because I know this misery.
Right.
And then so they're the walking dead. They're not willing to make that next step, because if I make the next step and it's misery, then I've got misery and rejection. I'll just stick with the misery and acceptance.
Another way I heard it is that people will choose known horrors and comparing it to unknown hell. Mm-hmm. Right. And so and that's something else, which is really an illusion to one of your points in one of our earlier conversations on how the comfort zone isn't real. Being in a box isn't real. There aren't some concrete barriers around you. Prison doors are open. Why are you still in there? Right. So you can step out of that. Right. But to your point, I love the point about it's really just you're choosing that pedestal. You're choosing the illusion of it.
Can I give you the traffic test?
Yeah.
Let me give you the traffic test. Okay. Here's how you know that you are predisposed to quote unquote comfort zones. Now, when you're driving, are you the type that, and this isn't necessarily a question for you, Chris, this is for everybody who's watching this. Are you the type who will see a line and you will jump to the back of that line when you're driving? Or do you drive in the other lane that has no cars there to get to your destination? There's so many people who will jump to the back of the line because they don't want to cut the line and have people angry at them for not waiting their turn.
Right.
I had a question the other day, and I was talking to one of my sons. I said, who made the rule on what's acceptable in driving? Who made the rule that everybody's got to get behind all these cars and backed up for a mile when there's a clear lane in front? It is that we don't want to be rejected. Again, a bunch of strangers who couldn't care less about you. They may say something, look at that guy or look at that girl, cutting in front of everybody. Not to stop to say, but you made the choice to get in line. I did. We have to stop making the choice to get in line when a line hasn't been put in front of us. We fold to these unspoken rules, and then we say, well, it's an unspoken rule. Well, why are you bowing to it?
Right. So there's a quote that talked about when we were kids, we loved crayons and we were playing with our crayons. And then somewhere towards adulthood, they took our crayons back, only for us to find out somewhere in adulthood, we want those crayons back. Right. We don't want to live life based on how someone else structured it for us. Hey, right. We want our crayons back to be creative.
Exactly.
So I'll share this with you, and this is something I haven't shared with anybody. I had to get out of my own comfort zone to do things differently because what I was doing wasn't working for me. So I had to get out of my comfort zone. So I got some coaching from a numerologist because I always believed in numerology. For some reason, it always resonated with me and it always was true. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do something different. I have different types of coaches. Always love coaching and getting the coaching. So why have I never done this? So I got out my comfort zone. And one of the things that she shared with me at the end of the day, the thing that's going to help me realize and tap into the untapped potential on the inside of me and realize those dreams and goals and those different things I want to have in my experience. She says, you're going to have to pull back and stay in creativity mode. Be creative, because that's where I find, I guess some people would say, your mojo, or you find your juices, you find your energy when you're doing what you're most passionate about, when you're doing that creative thing instead of being bogged down with all of the other stuff that just gets in the way.
Yeah, and to speak to that, Chris, on the creative portion, there is such a discounting of the creative side of our brains. We see it in schools. We see it in the educational system. I see that every day that I'm inside of the classrooms. And it is when you have that freedom to create, it actually helps you solve logical problems. When you don't, and then you treat yourself like a computer, your solutions go by the wayside. You have to depend then only on the mechanics, which are coming from very static directions. Creativity, though, you will get a 360 view, 360 degree view, a spherical view of the problem and multiple solutions, limitless solutions.
You know, and that's so true, because it's like whenever you begin to engage yourself in a particular activity. For example, like I wanted to create this course around helping people step out of their comfort zone. Well, as long as I was in idea stage, there are things that would never come to me because I'm just in idea stage. But when I get creative and I start doing the work to assist in these things becoming manifested, when I start developing the content, creating the images, and creating the membership site, the deeper I get into it, things are revealed. Things begin to get pulled back. Doors begin to open up, and things that you will see once you start engaging. But as long as you're not being a participant in it, you don't need those solutions. You don't need to know how this is going to break out and go to the masses, or you don't need to know how you could get a Jason Hodge to come talk about these principles. You don't need to know about any of that if you're just going to sit there in idea stage, because it's a waste of energy to do that.
Well, check this out, Chris. Okay, so you talked about getting into the creative portion of it, right? Something happens when you move into that creative zone. And what happens is that your belief quotient, your faith quotient goes through the roof.
Yes.
And, you know, it's like there's a scripture that I absolutely love when it says faith without works is dead. And essentially, faith without works is not faith. Okay? It's just perception. In order for it to truly be faith and for you to really believe it, there has to be action involved. So when you are working in it and you're creating, you know, and just like how our Father, you know, our Heavenly Father created everything that we see, right? He breathed the breath of life into mankind. And that creative process is a part of our heritage. So we create, and the more that we create, the more that we work on that creation, the more belief we have in its efficacy. And in that belief process, what ends up happening is that we begin to articulate it. We can see it. We can see the big picture. And as we explain that big picture, people catch the vision, right? In catching the vision, then they either A, resonate with it, or they don't. So it's going to draw them or repel them. And both of those are great scenarios. You don't want anybody inside of your stuff that's not supposed to be there, so you want it to repel them. And you don't want anybody in your stuff. You know, you want everybody in your stuff who is supposed to be in there, because then it enhances it. They get what they need. The program itself gets what it needs. And then it just continues to drive forward. It builds momentum. So that creative process is so important. And we need to learn how to create. We need to practice creation, which is why, you know, when you have things like, you know, colored pencil, gel pens, or artwork or whatever, you give your brain that space to exercise that creative muscle. And if you can see how they both work together, the logical and the creative, then you would not neglect the creative portion of your being. So you create, and it strengthens the logical. You do logic, and it strengthens the creative. So it is a harmony, because we were given both of them. Got to do that.
Yeah, and it goes back to what you were just talking about. You will connect with your target audience. You will connect with those that are feeling that pain, those that are experiencing that challenge. And so you can't go into it with this mindset, oh, I want everybody into this. I don't need everybody to take this course. I'm looking only to connect with specific people that are experiencing this. And that's it. There's a specific group of people that I know who are like me, that were cut from the same cloth. And that's the audience. It's not trying to get everybody or force people into a particular thing.
Right.
You tap into that target audience, you make those connections with the people who most need it, who it's relevant to, and you can grow with that particular audience.
Yeah. And, here's the thing with that is that as you are going through this process, and this is one thing that I noticed when I was going through the course, is that it had me ask questions that I knew I did not want to answer. And it was a great thing because I was like, oh, wow, this is really stretching me. I was thinking, okay, we're going to go through this course. Okay, check, knock the things off. But there was one portion in there at the very beginning where you let us know, okay, you have to be present in this process. So you can't just dial it in. It's not a thing that you go and check off the boxes. If you go in and you just, okay, went through the first module, check, second module, check, third module, check, fourth module, check. If you do it like that, you're going to rob yourself of the results. But if you go in there and you're like, okay, I'm going to extract everything that I can at this level of where I am. I'm going to extract everything that I have the capacity to extract from this course. You're going to get a lot out of it because it's going to challenge you to really look in the mirror and say, am I really doing all that I should be doing in my life, in this season of my life, for where it is that I say that I want to go? Am I saying that I want to go to this specific place because it really is a me thing, it's a part of my purpose? Or is this a part of something that's been programmed into me by those around me who are vicariously living through me, and it has nothing to do with me? Am I willing to do the next steps, and what are those steps? So it compels you to continue to ask those relevant questions, and that's just by your set of seed questions, if you take it seriously. And then, as you are doing that, you start to see a plan unfolding. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so I'm not doing this, so what do I need to do? Because you start to then self-direct and ask the next set of questions that are going to logically take you into the creative side of where you need to go in order to find a solution. And then to step out on the solution. Okay, how am I going to implement this? I'm going to implement it this way, this way, this way. Are you serious about that? Or are you just saying that because it sounds good? Because a lot of times we lie to ourselves. We will tell ourselves we're going to do this, this, and this because it helps us to fulfill that checklist, the nebulous checklist. And then when we're put to the test of, did you actually really do what you said you were going to do? Or was that just lip service? We find more often than not it's lip service because we're doing it for the wrong premise.
Yeah, I love a lady here in Atlanta, a great speaker here in Atlanta, Donna Satchel. Her name is Donna Serious Satchel. And she talks about how people are seriously not serious. Right. And the thing I like about the questions that are posed inside of the course is that one thing I recognize, the mind is always tormented by unanswered questions. Because you're going to have to deal with those questions. And it's not about just going through some modules. It's about doing the work. Yeah. You got to do the work in order to break free of the status quo, right?
And it's not a one and done.
Right. It's not a one and done.
Not a one and done. You keep on going back over and over and over because it will deepen.
Right. And it's worth putting that work in because the more you get in there and dig out what's been layered in there for years, especially when you start getting aha moments and start recognizing, this isn't my dream at all. I didn't want this. This is not what I signed up for. Right. And so then you're going to have to begin to chart the course for a new direction, chart the course for something where you can start living instead of just existing. Right. That's when that magic happens. Because you begin to reframe things.
And it forces you to then ask the next question. How do I get this done? Because sometimes, and actually most of the time, your real purpose or your end destination, you cannot get there alone. So the how question then becomes the who question, which isn't that interesting that both of those words have the same letters in them? How and who?
Wow.
Yeah,
It's like, that's like one of those memes. How old were you when you just figured that out?
exactly.
Today.
Yeah. So the how becomes your who. Who do I need to be, and who do I need to connect with in order to get to that end goal? And then you begin to write that down, and that becomes your life journal. It becomes your work to work that out. You know, the Bible talks about how we work out our own salvation, because it's not a one and done. You are constantly, measuring yourself up against the model, okay, the true model, okay, Yeshua, right? And as we go through and see, is my character, are my moves, are my intentions and agenda, do they match up to where they are supposed to be in order to get there in wholeness? Sometimes we will go to something and the motives are so wrong that we may be a success at crossing the finish line, but we are a failure at everything that we did to get there. And then that makes it the wrong situation, because we can't hold our head up high. Wow, I did this without stepping on everybody around me, without, shortcutting, without doing things that are unethical, unintegrous. I was able to do this because this was what needed to be done. And I did this in my wholeness. We're not taught that. Okay. And when you are in a win-lose mindset, you don't look to see, how do we all win at this? And then again, you go back to the who. Who do I need to have, and who do I need to help win? So now we are all winning.
Right.
Don't mean to preach, but there it is.
No, I'm flowing with you, because there's a team aspect that we talk about inside the course, that it's not just about you, it's about your team. And something brilliant that you were just talking about is about how you don't want to do this alone, but it's bigger than that. It's bigger than you just don't want to do it alone. You don't know anybody who has ever done it alone. Jesus has never done it all alone. Lone Ranger had Tonto, Batman had Robin, Peaches had Herb. There is nobody you're going to think of that's self-made and who has done any of this on their own. You're going to need a team. You need other people. I hate the term self-made because I don't understand it. You had to have customers. You had to have support somewhere along the line. It is impossible to do it all
Even
alone.
Counterfeiters have to have the machinery to do it. So we're not self-made. Just saying.
Absolutely. There's no way. And people like to say, well, in golf, somebody wins the tournament alone. There's no way. You have a caddy. You have a coach. There's no one who's out here doing it alone. But if you have this mindset that you're going to do it alone, you're going to find yourself in a comfort zone, you're inside of a comfort zone, or like inside of a velvet prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, because no one does it, and you shouldn't want to do it alone.
If you can do it alone, you're not playing the game.
Right. But look at the end result that you talked about earlier, though. If you did it alone, that means you're going to be alone because there's nobody else with you. And that's not, and I don't think that's part of the real experience any of us are looking for with whatever picture of success, whatever the vision is. I remember hearing Bishop Dale Bronner say, if you have a vision where you can see yourself doing this all by yourself, it didn't come from God, because God will always give you a vision where he could see himself in there with you. Right. So if you're in it all by yourself, you may want to look around and find out, hey, did I put myself into a small box? Because you're going to need someone else somewhere along the line. Even if you're like you think about Facebook, you can't even do something big. The company can't even do something big without Congress approval, without regulatory approval. There's always going to be some other entities to be. I guess it just sounds good when you can say, oh, I did it all myself.
Yeah, it feeds the ego.
Yeah. But I'm sure
it feeds it with junk food. Because it's not real.
If we look back down the line, we can find somewhere you hit rock bottom and somebody helped you get to this mindset you have that went on to achieve great results. But without that interaction with that person, right, you would have never made it. So you can't take all the credit for it. And it doesn't make sense to.
Yeah, and this brings this up, Chris. You know, when you see the folks who refuse to take the help because they don't want to have to say, somebody help me. So they will refuse help, delay progress, delay success, and then hack away at something to make a small win. And then they'll say, see, I've got this win. And it's like a teaspoon of water, and they're standing with the ocean behind them, not realizing that they could have had the ocean. But they're satisfied with the teaspoon because they're like, I did this. Ego will keep you. It'll hem you up.
What they say, ego stands for edging God out, EGO. Yeah. It's like with any class that I teach, and always share in the beginning, ask for help, not because you're weak, but ask for help so you can stay strong. That's and keep asking until you get it. That's something I learned from Les Brown, and it changes my life because so you don't fear asking for help. It's not a sign of weakness. Asking for help is a sign of strength.
Yes.
Also, it leverages opportunities, but also it reduces the time frames for something to happen because you got help. You know, 20 minutes with Jason. I know one of the things that you offer, was it 20 minutes? Is it 5 minutes or 20 minutes?
Oh, are you talking about when I did the 10 for 20?
Yeah, 10 for 20, right? 10 for 20. So 10 minutes with Jason, 10 minutes of all the years of experience you have, all the knowledge that you have, the ability to go and make a channel on YouTube and have it go viral in a matter of hours. All of that, that's what you're getting. That 10 minutes with Jason could reduce the time, the hours that you're going to have to go and try to figure all of that stuff out. And that's what comes from asking for help and investing in you, right? There was a guy on a financial advisor. He said, if you don't have $100,000 liquid just to do whatever you want to do with it, you should be investing in you. Spend that money in you to build and to grow.
That's right.
Right. So, Jason, what are some things that when it comes to assisting people to begin the process of getting out of their comfort zone, what are some things that come to mind that you can share?
Well, you've got to ask the right questions. Okay. And you have to be willing to be real with yourself. Most of us are masters at lying to ourselves, lying to others. And when that happens, we begin to believe those lies. Initially, we don't. And then we pacify ourselves into our own belief of the stuff that we knew at the beginning smelled funny. And we were calling it brownies, but it wasn't brownies, right? And so the right questions are the ones that start with why. Okay. I
love that.
And the question why is not a one-pass question. The question why is a multi-pass question. You ask, well, why am I doing this? Why do I want to do this? And then you'll give the initial superficial answer, okay? And then you ask, well, why is that important? And then you'll give another superficial answer. You're like, but why is that? And you keep on doing it until you start to feel a little pain with those answers. Because that pain is going to tell you, oh, I've actually hit something beyond the fallow ground, something beyond that crust that society has helped me build in my reality. I'm actually hitting an area where there's actual circulation happening instead of the calloused over me. And then when you hit that area, you may have to take a breather because it's going to get really deep for you. And you may find that you start living things that came all the way back to your childhood as to how you built this construct that you saw, that you defined as success. And then you've got a crossroads right ahead of you there. Am I going to continue on this road that I know, or am I going to take the road less traveled to really discover who I am and what it is that I need to be doing? Now, I'm not saying do something that's crazy, like, oh yeah, I just sold, everything or walked away from everything and now I live in a box somewhere. I'm not saying to do that. I'm saying to ask yourself the question and give yourself the grace and the time to come to a real answer, not an answer that sounds good to you and sounds good to others. Too many of us go to these workshops and things like that, and we try to impress the people around us. People who don't care about you. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. They don't know you. And they care about themselves, which is why they're at the workshop. Trying to impress them with sounding like, wow, I've got it all together. Really? Well, if you had it all together, you probably would not be at that workshop. Okay? You probably would be giving the workshop. But the fact of the matter is that we go to workshops because we're improving ourselves. And that is not an economic status thing. That is a thing that this area I need improvement in. And I don't care how much money you have, if there is a deficit in your knowledge base or your connection pool in an area of your life that is untapped, that does not trigger your financial gain mechanism, it's like it may be something with your health. It may be something with your emotions. It may be something with your relationships. Whatever that is, you go and you educate yourself and you put yourself in position to get what you need to fill in the gaps. So if I would say, ask those why questions, and then when it gets deep, give yourself a moment, journal, step away from it, and then come back to it, and then ask again.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Jason Hodge. We are having a jam session talking about stepping out of your comfort zone, my new course. Jason completed the course and left us with so much valuable information inside of there. Absolutely amazing, and did me a huge personal favor coming on here tonight to share some thoughts and ideas and concepts. So do me a favor, go ahead and like this video, share this video, comment on this video, and watch it again. So Jason, I want to go back to something you mentioned as we begin to start closing down on this particular live stream that I think is very important. You mentioned about the one and done. Yes. So one of the things that we talk about in the course is developing daily habits, because once you get out of your comfort zone, the goal isn't just to get out of the comfort zone, it's to stay out. So not because it's easy to obtain, more difficult to maintain. So talk about this mindset of one and done and how we need to get out of that mindset, the benefits of getting out of that mindset, and things that we can do to maintain it.
Okay. Well, Chris, folks have to treat this course like a workout. It's like a workout session. This is your boot camp. This is your maintenance. This is your acceleration. It's all of those things inside of your workout. And as you do it, the more you do it, the more proficient you will get at the process. The process is key because the process builds the pathways in your brain for the success, true success, because you're going to constantly ask yourselves the right questions and you're going to measure everything that you're doing against the model of success. Where do you ultimately want to end up? And is what you're doing right now going to get you there? If the answer is no, how do I shift? How do I pivot in order to make sure that I'm back on track? You see, it's not that you will ever shoot a straight line and then hit the target. You will shoot and then you have to correct your way to the target. So as you go through this course, and then you repeat the going through of the course, and then you repeat it, every time you do it, it deepens your ability and widens your capacity to ask the right questions and make the right corresponding actions. So I would say that don't treat it as a one and done. Put it on your calendar. Get it done every month. If that's too much for you, which I don't know why it would be, don't let it pass more than 90 days before doing it again. And then take notes. Look at a journal, because you're going to find, if you're doing it right, you're going to find, if you're really serious about it, okay? Some people get in there and they're not serious, and that's why they don't get the results. But if you're serious about it, what you will find is that the journal that you started out with is going to be totally different from the journal that you end with at the end of the year. Your mindset is going to shift. Your possibilities. I mean, you're taking a course from the possibilitarian himself. That's going to shift. and you're going to start to see things that you thought were impossible before as possible now, because you now have the right network, the right intentions and agenda, the right structure in order to support your movements moving to that finish line. And then you will learn that what you thought was the finish line really wasn't the finish line, because you can only see that far. But as your capacity expands, your mindset, your vision opens up, you will see, wow, that wasn't the finish line. That was the first hurdle. Even though you thought that you were hurdling along the way, it's like, no, this finish line was a hurdle. And now there's way more that I need to. And then you will start to realize, I really don't have a finish line. My finish line is when I take my last breath. There is no retirement when you are living your purpose. So these things come together. I would say just treat it as something that becomes a tool that you use to hone your skill set, your strength, and your knowledge base.
I love that, because it's all about the journey, right? Yes. And it's even whenever you reach a particular pinnacle, you reach that milestone, it's always going to be going for something else. I don't know if anybody out there listening has ever felt like once you achieve that goal, you got there, it was like, wow, that's all this was. And so you have to immediately set another goal, or you'll be disinterested, and then you'll stay in that comfort zone. So taking heed that advice that Jason was just sharing, to stay out of that one and done mindset. It's just like with our faith and everything that we believe in. Faith is a muscle. You have to develop that muscle. You have to hit that spiritual gym and work it out, because confidence comes from doing. And the more you do it, you'll grow in confidence and begin to see things happen in your life. Man, Jason, I am so fired up from everything that you shared. What is some parting wisdom that you have for everyone? And also let people know how to get in contact with you, and also what you have coming up.
Absolutely. Okay, well, some parting words here, hopefully they're wisdom to you, is that, don't discount you. Okay, don't discount you. And understand that in order for us to really understand the value that we have being here, we have to look at ourselves through God's filter, not through anybody else's filter, and not even through our own filter, until we have learned to look at ourselves and the world through God's filter. God looks at us for who he created. So he doesn't look at us as the wino that we are currently, the drug user that we are currently, the cheater that we are currently, the thief that we are currently, the failure that we are currently. He doesn't look at us like that. He looks at us as, no, my design and my blueprint for that individual, for my child there, is this, this, and this. And he sees that, and he speaks that, and he's spoken it. We have to align with that. And no matter what we see or feel, we have to speak life into ourselves, because the word says that death and life are in the power of the tongue, and them that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. So we have to be willing to speak life into all the things that are concerning us, and make sure that we are pointed due north, or in the direction that God has designed us to point it. And then I would say that we should take stock. We should journal every now and then. We should take some time to decompress, to think, and to look at our day. Hey, did this day go like it was supposed to? What was going on with me? What was going on with them? Okay, what can I do better? And not better from an act of will, better from an act of purpose. If we are just willing ourselves to do stuff, our will break eventually. But if we know that this is our design doesn't break. It's just what is. It's like I always said, you never have to tell a pine tree to grow pine cones. It just does it. An oak tree grows acorns. It just does it. So we have to know what our creation is, what our blueprint is, so we can just do it. And
I love that.
If you get in contact with me, just go to jasonhodge.biz, JASONHODGE.biz. All right.
Awesome. Well, Jason, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you, my brother. Hey, somebody I highly respect, ladies and gentlemen. I highly encourage you to reach out, get in contact with Jason. He's doing some amazing things. His time is very valuable and very limited. So get in where you could fit in, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks again, Jason.
You're welcome, bro. Glad to be here.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the Jason Hodge and the first interview on how to step out of your comfort zone. Absolutely excited about this interview and the interviews that are coming up. Remember to like, comment, and share on this. Reach out and let me know if something stood out for you, what stood out for you, how you were impacted. And also go ahead and visit thechrisgloss.com/comfort zone and dive into the course. It's time to get out of that comfort zone, get out of that mental prison, get out of that box, and begin to live your best life. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to communicating and talking with you soon. Until we speak again, have a blessed, prosperous, and productive day.